Yao Xiongjun, a great master who carried Yiquan forward into a new age. Yiquan, created by the great martial arts master Wang Xianjai, was a perfect integration of Yangshen, health promotion, and real combat. With its unique national characteristics, it has won wide fame both at home and abroad and can be called a gem of the Chinese martial arts. As the representative of the second generation of Yiquan, Master Yao Xiongjun inherited the essence of Yiquan from his predecessors and carried Yiquan forward into a new age. From as early as the 1940s, Master Yao took over the responsibility of fighting matches and teaching his fellow apprentices on behalf of his teacher, Master Wang. None of these visitors and learners failed to be filled with awe as well as respect, having met with him. Though Master Yao spared no energy in the cause of spreading and promoting Yiquan, together with writing several masterpieces, due to the limiting conditions of his times, there are very few audio and video materials of his excellent speeches and demonstrations left to us now. The main contents of this disc are the tape-recorded course speeches by Master Yao Xiongjun in the training classes of Zhenzhen Health Promoting Post for senior cadres in Beijing and Zhengzhou of Henan Province, which are an in-depth illustration of the secrets of health promotion in Yiquan. When Mr. Yao Chengguan, elder son of Master Yao Xiongjun, president of Beijing Martial Arts Association Yiquan Research Institute, chief director of Beijing Zongxun Martial Arts Club, and the representative figure of the third generation of Yiquan, received this precious material. With the support of his fellow apprentices and friends in this circle, and with his selfless spirit, he determined to make it public, to share it with all who are interested in Yiquan. It is his hope that this will provide help for Yiquan fans and professional practitioners in their research in and learning of both Master Yao Xiongjun's excellent theories and skills in fist art. It also demonstrates Mr. Yao Chengguan's determination in carrying forward his father's thoughts on martial arts so as to make further progress in the study and promotion of Yiquan. First of all, I'd like to give an introduction about the origin of Yiquan. Yiquan comes from Xin Yiquan, also named Xin Yiba. When Master Dai Longban, born in Qixien County in Shanxi Province, came to Henan, he learned Xin Yiquan. When he went back to Shanxi, Master Li Luoneng from Hebei Province came to Qixien to learn from Master Dai. 12 years later, when Master Li went back to Shanxian County in Hebei Province, Master Dai changed the name Xin Yiquan into Xin Yiquan. What was developed later was Xin Yiquan in Shanghai, which was also called Shi Da Xing, 10 great images, for having images of 10 animals. This becomes very obvious. Xin Yiquan possesses 12 animals, 2 more than Xin Yiquan. Now if we look back to Xin Yiquan, we can see that though its 10-image set is different from the 12-image set in Xin Yiquan, and its style and apparent movements are different from Xin Yiquan, it conforms to Xin Yiquan in actual force application, exerting force, attacking techniques, strength, and mind. The farthest origin of Xin Yiquan has no final conclusion at present. In the past, some instructors presumed it was founded by UFA. In the earliest handwritten copy of Xin Yiquan, it is said that Master Ji Longfeng once got a book named Practice in Xin Yiquan from the Zhongnan Mount. The book was about the practice of Xin Yiquan. Believing it was a gift from Xin Yiquan, Master Ji changed its name into Xin Yiquan. Xini means a kindly feeling or hospitality. Only after 3 years of intensive study and practice did he become a master of Xin Yiquan. But this version is not very convincing. Another version claims that Xin Yiquan was founded by Master Ji himself, a distinguished spearsman then. From the research on skills wielding the spear, he came to form some idea about boxing skills and thus founded Xin Yiquan. But recently, some people have been to Master Ji's hometown to find out some clues. According to Ji's descendants, Master Ji was a horseback spearsman. Certainly, there is a great gap between the spear-wielding skills on horseback and those on the ground, and it is hard to imagine the evolution from spear-wielding skills on horseback to a king of boxing skills. On the whole, there's no final conclusion in this respect. Would you like to hear my own opinion? I should admit that there is still lack of enough evidence. At first, when I read about the story of Master Ji, I wondered why he didn't mention anything about his teacher, as our Han people have always held their forefathers in high esteem, believing they are sacred. It is also said that he picked up a book written by General Yue Fei. Then, during the several hundred years from Southern Song dynasty to the first 10 years of the Qing dynasty, no matter that it was written in the book or passed orally from generation to generation, there were no famous masters of Xinichuan or any illustrative charter of it. Isn't it rather dubious? Another point is totally my personal tentative idea. Recently, some of my colleagues went to Shanxi and paid a visit to the descendants of Master Ji. They got the information that Master Ji had once broken into the Shaolin Temple. Why did he go to the Shaolin Temple? In the 1920s, my teacher went to Songshan Mountain and established a friendship with the great Master Heng Lin, then the abbot of Shaolin Temple in Songshan Mountain, and they exchanged boxing skills with each other. According to Master Wang's words, we're of the same homology. That's why he could be in all sincerity and frankness. This incident is a good example of the parochial prejudices of that time. Only people of the same faction and of the same homology get along as family members. This was what Master Wang once said. After the liberation of China, however, in the 1960s, as some of you maybe know, the martial arts instructor Master De Kun in Shaolin Temple claimed that Xinichuan was Shaolin Temple's treasure to stabilize the whole mountain. In 1978, with Mr. Yang Shaogang, I went to Songshan Mountain and had a talk with Master Zhang Jue, whose elder brother Zhang Ju had passed away. He also believed that Xinichuan was the orthodox school in the Shaolin Temple. Though there were several pure divisions of boxing, Xinichuan was the most orthodox one. The year before last, we went there again and got the same answer from Mr. De Ju. Combining all these incidents, I got one question. Had Master Ji Longfeng handed Xinichuan to the Shaolin Temple or learnt it from the latter? I think the second explanation is more plausible. Then why is it to the contrary in the legend? That has something to do with Shaolin Temple's thoughts of overthrowing the rule of the Qing dynasty and restoring the Ming. Even now, when you go to the Shaolin Temple, you will still find a towering pine tree wound about by an ilex. According to Master Zhang Jue, this is one of the famous sites in Shaolin. Under the pine is a flower bed with a high parterre full of rocks and stones. When Master Zhang Jue told me that it symbolized Meishan Hill, I was startled for a while. So many years had passed after the complete collapse of the Qing dynasty, but people in Shaolin Temple still worshipped such a remnant. Then I made a joke to Master Zhang Jue. Have you ever been to Beijing? He answered, no. Then I said, Meishan Hill in Beijing is much bigger than this one. At that time, I was aware that everyone in Shaolin Temple knew the deep meaning of Meishan Hill. Even now, some aged people still hold such old ideas. Why should I mention this stuff? The answer lies in the fact that Master Ji didn't mention the name of his teacher. There is such a legend in Shaolin Temple, which was also mentioned in Recipe of Shaolin Boxing, written by the host of Zun Wo Jai, Studio of Paying Respect to Me. When Shaolin's martial arts were passed to a secular man, they should be called Neijia, internal division. If to a monk, they should be called Waijia, external division. Why should it be called Waijia? Because monks are supposed to go out of a monastery into the mountains or plains. My teacher, Master Wang, also mentioned that though in appearance we were learning Xinichuan, at bottom there lurked the idea of overturning the Qing dynasty and restoring the rule of the Ming. It reminded me of a story. At the end of the Ming dynasty and in the beginning of the Qing dynasty, there was an envoy of the Ming dynasty named Qiu Gongde. After the collapse of Ming, he went to Shaolin and stayed there for a period of time. Then, when his hair was long, he went to Fujian province. Why to Fujian? He went there to follow the national hero, Zhen Chonggong, and for the first time, he went to the front to fight. When defeated, he came back to Shaolin. There he was called Tongchan Shangren, Tong from the Chinese word Tongku, pain, and Chan from Chanzong, Zen. Changren is a deferential reference to monks. Then he went off again. It was said that he left for Taiwan to seek refuge in Zhengchonggong, intending to fight against Heiyi. After a period of time, he came back again. Stimulated by this story, I guess it is because Master Ji was afraid of being pursued and captured by Qing soldiers that he dared not say the name of his teacher. But this is only a wild guess, without conclusive evidence. Therefore, the task of truly finding out about the origin of Yi Quan lies in our future efforts. Now let's continue. After Master Li Luoneng had mastered Yi Quan, he also had many students. He was very skilled in boxing and was known as Sacred Fist. Among the students, we also have several famous ones: Master Guo Yunshen, Che Yizhai, Che Yonghong from Shanxi Province, Song Shirong from Shanxi Province. As the most well-known student of Master Guo, Liu Qilan also came from Shenzhen, as did Master Guo. Among Liu's students, there were Li Cunyi, Geng Qishan, and Zhong Yuntai, all of whom were distinguished masters of their time and who actually learned their skills directly from Master Guo. During the practice of Yi Quan, when Master Guo was talked of, he was called the founder of Yi Quan. On the one hand, it might be an exaggeration. On the other hand, it showed that Master Guo did possess superb martial artistry. He was said to be able to beat everyone on both sides of the Yellow River with his bungchuan in only half a step. Or someone even further exaggerated that with his bungchuan in only half a step, he had beaten everyone throughout the country. No matter whether such sayings are true or not, and no matter how many places Master Guo had been, they were quite popular in North China. In his childhood, Master Wang was weak and often subject to illness, and that's why he went to Master Guo to learn boxing. He was very young then. According to Master Wang's narration, it was in the 33rd year under Emperor Guangxu's reign that he left Shenzhen. At that time, Master Guo had passed away. Then Master Wang went to Baoding and other places in Hebei province. Finally, in 1915, when Beijing was under the rule of Yuan Shikai, he became instructor of the Ground Force Martial Arts Training Institute. Having been there for 3 years, in the 7th year of the Republic of China, that is 1918, he went to the south. When he came back, he stayed a long time in Beijing. During that time, he met many famous masters of Yi Quan, Bagua, 8 triograms, Taiji, and various divisions of boxing, such as Pao Chui, Yue family Sanshou, in Baoding, Beijing, and the areas around, and established friendships with them. When he was in the south, Master Wang told me he met Great Master Heng Lin of the Shaolin Temple in Songshan Mountain. Master Heng Lin possessed superb martial artistry, but was not so distinguished in the academic aspect. Then, during his journey to the further southern areas, in Fuzhou of Fujian province, Master Wang met a Master Fang Chia Zhuang, who had some connection with Shaolin martial arts. Having had a small fight with him as a way of exchanging skills, Master Wang spoke highly of Master Fang's martial artistry. He told me, if I had 10 fights with him, I would lose 6 times and could only win 4. But there is one thing. During the 6 times he defeated me with his superb skills and strength, he pressed forward so fiercely that I had no way to retreat. Yet he never found me to lie down like a coward. But for the 4 times I defeated him, I made every one of them neat and crisp. What does this mean? It means that Master Fang hadn't achieved a high academic level. After that confrontation, Master Wang went back to a county in Hunan province, more than 100 kilometers away from Changsha, the capital city of Hunan. I'm sorry, I really can't remember the name of it. He said there was a great master of boxing named Xie Tiefu. How good was this Master Xie, really? The first time I heard the name from Master Wang was when he told me, apart from my teacher, I have benefited most from Master Xie Tiefu. When I had fights with him, no matter whether it was Tuishou or Sanshou, every time I was defeated. He was very soft when he punched out, without any patterns. But once you touched his fist, it became very hard. Since your opponent was so strong and hard, you were either thrown away or got hit. If you say he is tough in his movements, once you touch it, you are taken in. He would be soft and loose immediately. He was really smart. On the whole, Master Xie's martial artistry was unfathomable. That's why Master Wang said apart from his teacher, he benefited most from Master Xie, who pushed Master Wang a great step forward in the field of boxing. After that, the combination of experience, meetings with distinguished masters, and his own hard work enabled Master Wang to improve a great deal in his boxing skills. Then he went back to the north in Tianjin. In the first national martial arts contest, organized by the Kuomintang in 1929, together with his senior fellow student, Zhang Jiankui, Master Wang went to Hangzhou to be an umpire. After the contest, he went to Shanghai to spread Yiquan. He began to use the name of Yiquan around 1929. He stayed in Shanghai until 1935, and then he came back to his home county of Shenzhen. And in 1937, he came to Beijing. It was then that I made my first acquaintance with Master Wang. Back then, in 1938, in the number 1 Xini Hutong, in the present Dongdan area, was a sports organization of the Xizun Learning Union. Master Wang was coach of it, and he endeavored to promote Yiquan until the end of June 1940. At that time, many people in Beijing knew him. This is something connected to history. He was quite familiar with many old boxing masters in the past, but not those who came later. You have known his experiences in the past few years. So at that time, to the fashion that boxing should have sets of tactics and skills, or boxing should go to shows, he thought not only had those boxing divisions lost the outstanding traditional features, but they had also become stagnant with no prospect of further development. Therefore, he changed the name Yiquan into Da Changchuan, Great Achievement Boxing. That was in the year of 1940. In the same year, he published 3 articles on Yiquan in the newspapers. The first one was published on June 20th, 1940, in Shebao and Suiminbao in Beijing. It was named Wang Xianzhai Discusses the Essence of Combat Science. It was not published in just one day. Actually, it was serialized. In July came the second article, named An Interview with Wang Xianzhai, Founding Master of Da Changchuan, also serialized. In September came the third one, also named An Interview with Wang Xianzhai, Founding Master of Da Changchuan. In his first article, he mentioned other boxing schools that were popular in Beijing at that time. He particularly criticized Taiji, Xingyichuan, Bagua, and Tongbi. In fact, throughout his 3 articles, apart from putting forward his own academic points, he mentioned other boxing schools. After the publication of the first article, Wang Xianzhai Discusses the Essence of Combat Science, we moved from Xini Hutong to number 1 Dayangyi Hutong, which was also in the present Dongdan area. The original house was occupied by a Japanese espionage institute, so we were forced to move out. After the publication of such words, in order to prove he was right, he wished masters of other boxing divisions would come to our place to discuss and exchange views. It could be theoretical discussion or exchange of boxing skills. In the present saying, it could be a contest. The time was set on Sunday from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. once every week. After the third article was published in September, one more day was added, both on Friday and Saturday. Now, it should be very clear. Master Wang said, "It's not for my personal profits that I publish these points of view. It's for the fate of Chinese boxing as a whole. You can either sympathize with me or blame me. I stand here to welcome both smile and swearing." Nevertheless, I still hope that those well-known masters and instructors in our boxing field will come to us to have a discussion. If your skills are better than ours, then we can guarantee to help you spread your boxing division and call for people to go to your place to view, to learn, and to emulate. Now I should make myself very clear. We can either discuss theories or exchange our views in Tuishou, which is much more peaceful than Sanshou. Certainly, a real contest is also welcomed. Thus, during that period, there were people coming to our place successively. But formal visits were not many, nor were informal visits, because some people at that time were willing to fight with him. If defeated, and the result was published in the press, he would lose both his face and his job. Thus, not many people dared to have a contest with him. Of course, there were a few public contests, but we were not authorized to find a competition arena. This was 1940. From 1941 to 43, such visits still came up once in a while. From 1944 onwards, these visits stopped until the liberation of China. During these years, in 1948, Master Wang founded the Boxing Research Association in Imperial Ancestral Temple, now called Cultural Palace, publicly promoting and spreading Yiquan until the founding of the new China in 1949. In 1949, the Imperial Ancestral Temple was changed into the Laboring People's Palace of Culture, and people could teach Taiji in it, and there were 1,000 people teaching various boxing skills. Thus, Master Wang shifted to Zhongshan Park. After 1949, real combat, the practical boxing skills, were more or less confined, so Master Wang focused on teaching people to cultivate good health. The name Jianzhuang Gong, standing post skill, was invented by him during that time. He was so forthright as to simply discard the name of Quan, boxing. He was absorbed in teaching people to promote health. At the end of the 1950s, he went to the Beijing Traditional Chinese Medicine Research Institute. As an advisor on Jianzhuang, he gave therapeutical treatment courses in Guang'anmen. In 1960, he went to the Baoding Traditional Chinese Medicine Research Institute in Hebei Province, inviting Mr. Duan Hui Xuan, head of the Department of Public Health of Hebei Province at that time, to go with him. He worked there until he passed away because of illness in Tianjin on July 12, 1963. The above is one part of Master Wang's life story. Jiji is an ancient term, coming from the old saying, the people of Qi are addicted to Jiji, from the Warring States period, which indicates that Jiji was quite popular in the Qi country. This is the earliest name for our national boxing. Some even earlier terms can be seen in written form. But Master Wang never used the term Jiji. He said that boxing was divided into two parts. One was health cultivation, and the other was self-defense, with no Taolu, set of skills and tactics, nor Jiaofa method. Some boxing schools emphasized Taolu and Jiaofa on how to attack the opponent and how to break through the opponent's attack. All these had been set down firmly, but Master Wang thought that we could not prescribe in advance to wait for the patients to come. So he opposed so-called Taolu or Jiaofa. Then what did he advocate? In his words, it is to carry out the benign potential in one's body, which is now called reflex, such as Zhengti Li, unified force. To put it simply, once you have physical contact with me, I am able to bring my strength to bear to hit you, without paying attention to certain Taolu or Jiaofa. Wherever you touch, I can issue force there. This is the fighting way that Master Wang advocated, excluding any Taolu or Jiaofa. He also opposed exercises for a particular part of the body, such as beating iron sands. He believed that exercises focusing on one part of the body could harm one, and long practice of such would certainly have a negative effect. The emphasis on the whole body and on the sense of unity is an outstanding feature of Yiquan. As for the explanations of the name Yiquan, I've heard two from Master Wang in two different perspectives. On the one hand, he made a division of his audience. On the other hand, maybe he was aiming this name at the young generation, who know few things. He explained as follows: among every movement of raising the hand, raising the foot, moving the hand and making steps, there should exist the intention. Why should we do it like this? It was put in a very ambiguous way. Actually, this is just a criticism of those who practice with Taolu or Jiaofa. Why should you practice Taolu every day? What for? Bouncing and prancing, graceful and elegant. Such movements have lost the essence of boxing. Is there anything good for the health? Is there anything conducive to Jiji? In fact, such boxing has lost its substantial meaning. Now let's come to the second explanation, which was in written form, controlled by the nerves and led by the will. So it was called Yiquan, will boxing, with the focus on Yi, will. Thus, In the part of health promotion, Yinian, will, was also the major requirement. Later, the health promotion part of Yiquan developed into Jianshen Zhuang, health cultivation post, which mainly aims to turn weak people into strong and sick people into healthy. In his words, without a good body, how could you practice boxing skills? So the first step is to do exercises to have a strong body with vigorous energy. Then you can concentrate your mind on your own. And only after the full concentration of the mind can you practice Yiquan. This is something about Jianshen Zhuang, which is another outstanding feature of Yiquan. The second one is Jiji. Jianshen is based on Jian Zhuang, with over 95% of the movements of Jian Zhuang. So does Jiji, but with a different proportion. Apart from Jian Zhuang as the main part, in Jiji there are also Shi Li and Shi Shang, testing voice. In Shi Li, there is also Zhou Bu with steps. There is enough to learn about the Shi Li of your foot. You also have to learn Fa Li to release your force. When you are learning Fa Li, you also practice Tui Shou. Tui Shou, I believe, most of you have seen before. There is also Tui Shou in Taiji Chuan. There was even a Taiji Tui Shou contest held recently. But still, Tui Shou in Yiquan is somehow different from the one in Taiji Chuan. First, in Yiquan, it doesn't have to practice Da Lun, which is a must in Taiji. Second, from the very beginning, it does not require Tui Shou should be practiced with fixed steps. Why should we activate our steps at the very beginning? Then, let me ask you a question. Why should we practice Tui Shou? Real combats are not the same as sanda, free fighting. When faced with a formidable opponent, you may encounter any accident, even the loss of your life. So, real combats are much fiercer and tougher than sanda. In that situation, when the opponent is drawing near, or when you two are at a deadlock, or when you are grasped or held in the arms of your opponent, it is not convenient to fight or to throw him away. Therefore, at such moments, you need Tui Shou to bring the strength of your whole body to bear when you have physical contact with the opponent. Then, how to begin the practice? The answer simply lies in Tui Shou. Confined by the conditions of Tui Shou, one punch is able to combat a batch of places, including shoulder, elbow, wrist, hip and leg, without missing the target. Therefore, when the two of you are in physical contact, don't move away from the contacting point. Wait for a while and release your force. The first thing is that after the contact, you should make out the strength, the intention, and the change of strength of your opponent. Secondly, though fighting is forbidden, you should still keep highly alert. That's why Master Wang did not advocate one should stand still in Tui Shou. In real sanda, both parties are moving, while in Tui Shou, if you stand still, you cannot use sanda. So he believed that Tui Shou should be a complement to sanda and should be trained with the training methods of sanda so that it could make up for the latter's deficiency. Seize the moment when your opponent is grasping your bones and thus you are unable to fight. Use this moment when you two make contact and release your force suddenly to gain victory. Therefore, sanda is also running through the practice of Tui Shou. Another point is that what Tui Shou aims at is to break the balance of your opponent. That is, to grasp the center of gravity of your opponent so that he fails to keep his weight balance. Of course, anyone at this moment would try to balance himself. Seize the moment when he is balancing his body and release your force to push him away. Following what has been said above, when the two of you are in Tui Shou, you should still keep the vigilance of Jiji. You should be always on guard. In the case that the opponent breaks the rules of Tui Shou and makes a sudden attack towards you, such as giving a punch or a kick, are you able to resist it? Of course, we are not to attack the opponent, but still, we should experiment whether if, when the opponent is pressing towards us very fiercely, we are able to free out one hand and punch back. Just have a try when you are doing Tui Shou. These are the requirements of Tui Shou in Yiquan. As I finish my introduction of it here, I'd like to make some explanations about the movements for those of you who have already practiced for a period of time. After Tui Shou is Shi Li. What about Shi Li? What about Jian Zhuang? It is Jiji Zhuang, combat post. What does Jian Zhuang aim at? Apart from health cultivation, through a still position, It enables you to search for Hunyuan Li. What is Hunyuan Li? It is what we now call Pingcheng Li, balanced force, keeping a balance up and down, forward and backwards, and left and right. After several years of practice of Jianzhuang, every time after you assume the posture, you may find that when one hand is stretching forwards, the latter one is as if dragging it back. And there are also forces of resistance when you draw back your hands, when you close it inward, and when you raise it up, and when you press it down. From this part, you can have the sense of resistance all over the body, as if the dragging intention of the back hand is the so-called zheng li, contradictory force. But it is when you are standing still that you have feelings of such force. Once you move your hand, it disappears. This enables your will to take control while you are moving slowly. For example, when you are doing Shi Li, imagine there is watery dough before you and you are supposed to insert your hands into it. If you want to practice the most standard Shi Li in Jiji, stand with 30% of your weight on the front foot, as in Jianzhuang. Imagine there is watery dough before you and slowly insert your hands into it, with the feeling of your hands being wrapped by the dough. Then pull out your hands. While pulling, rotate them until the two palms are facing each other. Then, twist them inwards until the palms are facing downwards. Then push them horizontally. Either when you push them forwards or when you draw them backwards, you should have the sense of resistance, as if there really is something there. At the same time, when your hands stretch forward, if there's some body rotating forward, no matter at what time and at what speed, you should give a reaction at once. When you are drawing back your hands, though your hands are dragged backwards, there's a force moving forwards at the same time. Is it like this when your hands are stretching forwards? Yes, the force is the same, but it should not be visibly apparent in the practice of Yiquan. It is not easy to judge whether the inner force is in the right place, and you should also make sure of the uniform motion of your will, since it is Shi Li, not Fa Li. Meanwhile, when your hands are moving forward, there should be a force moving backwards, and vice versa. This is called posigrade and retrograde movement, clearly stated in the illustrative charter of Yi Quan. To go against the existing force, that is to advance countercurrent, this is Shi Li. It is the same in the directions forward and backwards, up and down, and opening and closing. When one force goes upwards, Shi Li goes downwards, and vice versa. When one force opens to the outside, Shi Li is closing inwards, and vice versa. To put it in a more complicated way, when you move up and down, you have something to hook on. When you have forces opening and closing, you should also point obliquely forwards, and Shi Li then should point backwards. All the forces should be Hunyuan Li, which is the requirement of Shi Li. When you are doing Shi Li, you should also pay attention to your footwork, that is Mozabu. We can guess the meaning simply from its name. Since today, I come here to mainly talk about boxing. I haven't mentioned much about Yang Sheng. I have also taught Mozabu in my training class, yet with different requirements. You may be a person with a weak body who cannot walk long distances down a muddy road, but boxing exercise doesn't necessarily contradict a weak body. This is known to those who have practiced boxing for a period of time. Therefore, when you are making the first step, you can imagine that you are not walking on the ground, but on a desert, or a ground covered with cotton, or even a beach with high elasticity. But when you are there, you cannot do it, since you cannot keep your balance on that. Then, after a step forward, you gently land yourself on it. Then imagine the floor is very soft, and you are pressing down bit by bit. Then step forward again. After another 2 steps forward, you need to relax yourself again. All I have been talking about is the movement of your will or mind activity. In my training class, I have mentioned that when you are doing the practice of Mozabu, you should keep your body upright, as in the attention position. Push your head upwards and stretch your neck so that your body can be upright. In Taiji Chuan, it is also emphasized that the body should stand upright. You can understand this without any further explanation. Next, you should part your feet. There's no secret in it. At the beginning stage, you should first keep your body in balance. Those who are about to walk on a steel wire can stand firmly with a bamboo rod or an umbrella in their hands. Then, raise one foot and move it forwards with your body straight, and then land it to the side. When you are moving the foot forwards with a straight body, there is a mind activity, as if under your foot there is tall grass. In every step you make forward, you can feel the resistance to your toes or sole. When you are landing your foot, your toes touch the ground first, and then the full sole. At this moment, shift all your weight to this leg. It is the same when you are moving a step backwards. That is, when you are moving backwards, you should move as if through the grass. When you are practicing the formal Jiji, there are more requirements, but the appearance is the same. When you are raising this foot, it is as if you are standing in mud. If we were really moving in the mud like this, it would be impossible for us to secure our shoes. So, when you raise your foot, make sure you raise the whole foot. You also need to drag your foot ahead. Of course, if you are wearing a leather shoe, then you don't drag it in the mud. When you are moving ahead from here, imagine there is a rolling pin or a small ball in front. Still, it is in a conflictive situation. Move bit by bit until you cannot stretch your leg straight, with your knee slightly bent. Then move the other leg and foot to this side and move it ahead in a conflictive way as before, by dragging it backwards first before moving it forwards. There is another requirement. Suppose I walk forward while rolling a staff. Imagine your foot bumps into a rock with the toes. Can I stop at once after a very short moment of blankness in the mind? You should cultivate such mental reactions. Let's change to something different. Imagine you are tiptoeing forward as a snake without being afraid of its stretched forked tongue. You should cultivate your sensitivity during the training. Make one step backwards and land the foot to the ground. What if there's a pit? Should we just fall into it? You should test yourself to see whether you can pull your body up. Sensitivity in boxing is another factor that should be trained. But when you can successfully handle your mind activity, you should try to combine it with jianzhuang. Mind activity is just one part of the requirements. Then how to combine them in reality? For instance, when I make a step forwards, I put my weight on this leg and my hip is also sitting on it. With a straight body, I make steps forward completely the same as in Jiji Zhuang. When I am stepping forwards, it is not merely stretching my front leg forward, but to those who are still sick, I could only teach them like that. In fact, when you are pulling out this leg, it is using the force of the back leg to push the front one forwards, little by little. So it equals Fa Li. One step forward and you are there. If not, pull out your leg immediately. So, during this practice, bear in mind that when you are practicing Jiji Zhuang, you should pay attention to relaxing your body, since when you come to this stage, it is not easy to relax it. Therefore, a strong body is a prerequisite. If one is weak in body and nervous in mind, one is bound to use force, and as a result, he or she is prone to experience breathlessness and a fast heartbeat. Let's take an example to illustrate it. One of the basic skills in Mozabu, which in fact is also Shi Li in the foot, is the conflicting force. It is a basic footwork. Moreover, you can make this footwork into Dabu Mozabu. When you are about to land your foot, spur your back leg to slide forwards, and the front foot pushes it gently away. This is the most basic footwork in Yi Quan. Other footwork is more or less the same as this one in using forces, only with the change of forms. That's all for Mozabu, the most basic footwork. Now let's turn to Fa Li. What exactly are the requirements of Fa Li? It is the resistance force we feel in Shi Li. Some Shi Li are very simple. Some are done while you are standing still, but some are with steps. Of course, there are various mind activities. I raise a simple example here. The practice of rubbing a ball in Yiquan is a bit different from Taiji Chuan. According to my teacher, Master Wang, this ball can be either big or small, can be round or oval, and can be heavy or light. All depends on our mind. When I am doing Shi Li, obviously the ball is in my hands and I am rubbing it. With a strong mind activity, I am trying to pull it up by mere rubbing. Maybe it is not that light. You may make a comparison yourself. So, does it have anything to do with Fa Li? The simplest Fa Li is that I feel the ball is so heavy when rubbing it that I throw it to you all of a sudden. We can also assume that I have thrown an iron ball as big as this at your body. At that moment, I have this arm in the front and this leg inside. Under the force of the ball, you are not likely to hold your balance. Apart from using your palms, Fa Li also includes your fists. Fa Li with the fist is tough and fierce. When you exert force from this part, it is the most standard. When you exert force with your shoulder, you use it to resist others' attacks. When you sit with your back hip to this side, you are releasing with the hip, mainly with the leg. As time goes on, with hard practice, you will find that there are more and more places that you can exert force from. I can exert force with my fist, but it is not completely the same as if I exert force to throw people away or make them fall down, since to hit people is a combating force. Even to hit others with my palms, I don't have to use the method I've just mentioned. To hit others calls for the sudden release of our largest force in a bat of an eyelid. It equals what we now call explosive force. In Master Wang's opinion, his boxing emphasizes the framework. It is this case in Sanda. Imagine these two pieces are not to be used, and these two are like two big iron nails. Suppose your front hand is like a hammer, since it is in the front and thus near the opponent. Imagine your body is also a huge hammer. Since we don't have the conditions, I can only do it slowly when I exert force. I want to use the force in my body to bump the opponent abruptly. It is not a strong force, since it is only my will. At the same time, my head also bumps forward, and my foot should press down abruptly at the moment when I release my force. Once pressing it down, I should raise it immediately. This force is similar to the one when a car brakes. It is as if there is a spring or a rope between my two hands. At the moment when I release my force, I should break the rope with a crisp crack. At first, you just stand there still in the practice with empty fists. You are not allowed to pull the rope with your hands. Raise this hand. So, once you are moving, the force is very neat, kind of touch and go. Stop immediately when the force is released, since when you stop, you can continue to release force successively. So much for Fa Li. Next, we should turn to so-called Sanda. Sanda in Yiquan is not releasing your force freely. Can Sanda be counted as a Jiaofa? Yes, it can. Then, how to count Jiaofa? We do have some methods, but they are not fixed. I can release force from any part of my body. If you are so concerned with methods, generally speaking, apart from the practice of punches, Sanda also emphasizes Cao Shou. What is Cao Shou? It is proficiency. In a local saying in Beijing, those with 1,000 Jiaofa are not fearful, but those with only one skilled Jiaofa are terrible. This refers to Cao Shou. You may say there are also set methods in the training of Yiquan. Isn't Fa Li a typical example? Master Wang explained in The Spirit of Zen, no method means every method. If we make use of every method, this way of using methods can be titled as one method. Yet, whichever part of our body is touched, we should react immediately with that part. That is to say, we possess all the methods. This is true after you have practiced for a period of time. Nevertheless, we should insist on certain rules and regulations at the beginning stage. Fa Li, I have just mentioned, is one of the rules. When two people are fighting against each other, if you are still in the beginning stage, you should pay attention to the posture. So, framework is the first thing. So, what is framework? Now, suppose both you and I are standing. You punch out first. You are still in the beginning stage of learning. If you say you have forgotten the basic stance, then why, once you punch out, are you still holding that posture? Why should you keep your body in an oblique plane? That demonstrates that you are adjusting your framework. Now let's say I want to hit somebody. I give him a heavy punch on the head, since what each one advocates is not pure defense, but the combination of attack and defense. When I give him a heavy punch, if he wards off my hand, then he has made a mistake according to each one. Then, what is the right thing for him to do? He should try to hit me directly with a twist of the hand. It is through sliding over that I am able to reach him. The twist of his hand would divert me from my original target. But the key is still that he should come over and hit me. This is the situation that any boxing master would anticipate. If I punch towards the lower part of his body, his footwork puts him in a disadvantageous position. If he circles to this side, or rotates to both sides, I can easily take him under control. You are always afraid. What are you afraid of? Where should you fight? In a talking distance. Such is what is called framework. Once you come over, once you are in this distance, I'll be waiting for you, right there. Of course, this is just practice with backward steps. When you are moving towards me, I put out my hand here to protect myself, with my head shielded behind the hand. So I don't have to ward off your punch. The step I make is right in the axis line of your weight balance. This is called Ta Zhongmen or Cai Hongmen in Shaolin boxing. Its significance lies in that once your axis line of weight balance is tramped in, you'd better not resist. Otherwise, the more you resist, the more likely you are to be felled. You should keep the lower part of your body firm and steady. You can only make backward steps rather than forward ones, while hitting back with only one hand. The key point is the distance between us at the very beginning. I often say to some young friends that it is just like playing chess. I should claim first I am not good at it at all. But let's just take the example of chess. No matter who my opponent is, once he has let me achieve the fait accompli, even with a Pao cannon after Ma horse, even if he is a great master of Chinese chess in modern times, he could do nothing but admit his defeat, since it is already a fait accompli. Then, how can we achieve this in playing chess? Of course, in all my life, I've never achieved such a state. If I could, I would make a great learning of it, about how to build such a situation. Therefore, rather than emphasizing Taolu or Jiaofa, boxing should pay attention to the overall situation, to think how to achieve that state from the very beginning. Sometimes, it is accomplished by the tie ending between the two people. Sometimes, it is in the situation that I am more capable than the opponent, and with great care at every step, I finally get to that state. At other times, it is by designing some pitfalls to induce him to fall in without awareness so as to achieve this state. Therefore, the first thing is the study of the distance and position of the two people. In this respect, there's no question about the degree of tightness in physical contact. It seems that it is only after the two of us have hit each other that it is reasonable to talk about the degree of tension. Without physical contact, where does the degree of tightness come in? Actually, there is a degree of tightness. It is the degree of tension in one's mind. Among your movements, you are able to make the opponent feel tight in his mind. Since you are more skillful than him, you know what to do and can keep away from the mental tension. This is nothing of idealism. Let me put it more vividly as follows. Look at him. Here, I have not made my advance yet. This is one weakness. To put it practically, in Yiquan, he is already in a completely passive situation, waiting for my command. You also have no idea about how to attack me, so I know where your weakness is. Actually, at that moment, you have forgotten to attack me. In other words, you are totally attracted by my spirit. That's what it is. Certainly, this is only a generalization. A moment ago, we were talking about tuishou. You should practice it on your own, in line with our rules. You and I just stand here like this, which means equal opportunity, with no one taking any advantage over the other. When the two people touch each other, his hand is on this one of mine, and the other hand of mine is on his. This also means equal opportunity, with no one taking any advantage over the other. I should make it clear that when it is the first time that the two of us meet, we should use our feelings to sense the other, rather than use methods to match the other's footwork. You see, when he steps forward towards me, I should draw back my foot. That's why we say footwork is mobile. But it should not overstep the border. For example, in Taiji Chuan, one would move until here. Then, in real combat, once the opponent gives you a kick, you would be lying down immediately. So it is necessary not to let him take the advantage. Meanwhile, it is a must to keep your footwork mobile. You should try to figure out how he uses his force. On the one hand, you should use your hand to make him change the direction. On the other hand, you should also enlarge the distance between him and you, so that when his punch comes to you, it has already lost most of its strength. There is also a rule in this. It is flexibility. For instance, after the two of us have met each other, if he comes over, I can use the opposite force to pull him to me. I will use this hand to pull the two parts of him apart. When thrusting forwards, I can move one hand upward and the other downwards. In other words, he is below me. This is another case of equal opportunity. If now I want to attack you, what should I do? If I am more skillful and capable than him, when he moves towards me and I stand facing here, I should push him outwards. If he and I are on the same level, or I am not as skilled as him, I should try to drag his center of gravity. If I want him to move towards this side of me, I just drag him here. I can also drag to this side or that side. This is a motion method. If I am below him, there are many possible situations. If I move my two hands to this side, he would try to throw me away with his hand like this. Then I just move my hands to that side. This is called xingqu li zhi, straight force in a crooked form. When I move my hands to that side, in fact I have deserted this side, yet I've kept that side, right? He thinks that he can divert my strength this way. If I do not shy back quickly at this moment, I'm done for. So this is different from Taiji Chuan. Taiji Chuan emphasizes that you should induce your opponent to fall in with a force so strong as to drag the four sides and to pull out something as heavy as 4,000 jin, half a kilogram. After you have dragged your opponent to the side, you push him out right away. Nevertheless, say if you have dragged me there, or just say I have dragged you here, by one strike with the elbow, I can also hit you to the ground or even make you disabled. Another point is that I should try not to let him land firmly. Once he lands firmly, I should have changes ready. So I should never allow him to land firmly. For instance, when you are dragging me, I give you a push. When you are about to step down, I just give you a punch towards here. So tuishou is much different from in Taiji Chuan, since it has never broken away from sanda. Our first principle in sanda is the saying from Sun Tzu's Art of War, that is, when two armies meet, the braver one wins. We need such an energetic and vigorous spirit. Therefore, in Yangshen, we say we should concentrate our mind, relax the whole body, and breathe naturally, while in boxing, we say you should keep your mind concentrated first and keep it highly concentrated, then relax your body as far as possible, and then keep your breathing natural. Since boxing was used in the ancient time to train soldiers to fight battles, it was a must that one should be brave enough. So, at the beginning, one was trained to keep the mind highly concentrated and to imagine there was an enemy in front of one who was much taller than a house, whose fist was as big as this, or whose spear was so long. How to deal with him? So, one had to magnify oneself in the mind. My head can break the top of the building when I stand up, with my arms hanging to the street, and every movement of mine causes everything to move. In Yiquan, this is called Wu Jian Bu Cui, Wu Yi Bu Po. Destroy every strong matter and break down every will. All with such a strong momentum. Don't be afraid. If you get sight of such a big fist, your leg trembles, then there's no need to fight. Therefore, you need to keep your mind highly concentrated with a spirit of selflessness. So long as there is a single gleam of hope, you should overcome all the hardships and devote yourself to fighting. When two people are fighting at the risk of their lives, if you are still pondering over the children and parents at home or your savings in the bank, then you must throw these thoughts away immediately, otherwise your life is in the hands of your opponent. Why should we train our mind? We all know an insane person possesses a great strength. Why should one get stronger when one goes mad? We always ask whether madness is an illness. It is an illness. Then, why should an ill person possess such a mighty strength? Shouldn't a sick person be weak? Yes, a mad person does appear much stronger than normal people. That's why we say that when one is highly concentrated, one can produce uncommonly strong force that does not exist in normal people. Those who have been in war have told me that after they have survived a battle, it was hard to imagine how they could have done it. For example, having climbed over an extremely steep cliff. Yes, it is true that at the most desperate moment, one is able to bring all his might to bear. Each one requires that you concentrate your mind when you begin practice, and relax it when you have an imagined opponent in your mind. Why should we emphasize relaxing the mind? If not, you'll be tired to death, especially those who haven't done the practice for a long period of time. After a long time of concentration of the mind, they are bound to tremble all over the body. Just one example is enough to illustrate this. Why do many of our inexperienced sportsmen and sportswomen fail to perform to their normal levels in fighting contests, and their mind refuses to work properly? The answer lies in their nervousness and failure in relaxing the mind. Therefore, it is required that when you are highly concentrated in the mind, you should learn to relax it so that you can be agile in movement and quick in reaction. Why should we keep our breathing natural? It is because a long time of holding the breath would make you uncomfortable. You are able to hold your breath by some force, but if you keep this state long, your strength gradually fades and finally you are doomed. Therefore, these three principles conform to those in Yangshen, without contradicting it at all. What's more, I believe Chinese boxing in the ancient time was filled with savage and ruthless punches and kicks, as in Thai boxing. Though I have seen many of the murals in Daxiong Baodian, the precious hall of the great hero of Shaolin Temple, with my own eyes, painter Li Ku-chan has been there and has mentioned one feature of these murals. Rather than being many sets of boxing skills and tactics, they are just about one set of boxing skills, together with some paintings of some renowned masters. Take Zhao Kuang-yin, for example, the founding emperor of the Song dynasty, whose name is very familiar to us all. He was an expert in the staff among the Song people. After he succeeded in founding the Song dynasty, sometimes when he was drunk, he would elaborate on boxing to his ministers and would regret it once he got sober. But some of his points do make sense. Two of his sayings were preserved at the Shaolin Temple, which was also mentioned by General Yi Quan in his appraisal of boxing schools. The first one is, "It is only a strike that you get if you do not ward off blows or resist them." The second one is, "Once you parry one blow, you get 10 in return." In other words, if you are completely bent on defense, you are subject to being hit. Then, why should Shaolin have handed down these two sayings of Jiao Kuangyin? According to our study, at that time, boxing had developed into the stage of continuous punches. It was not that you gave the opponent a single punch and he warded it off. When he punched continuously, if you insisted on just warding off his blows, after a moment you were bound to be beaten and thus lose the match. This demonstrates that Jiao Kuangyin had made an innovation. The second evidence is about the great hero Yue Fei, who is said to have created Shuang Tui Zhang, to push out with both hands, to improve his boxing skills. If so, it is certain that before him, people only used one hand to defend and one to attack. But in fact, to push out with both hands opposes the basic principles of boxing. My teacher made some remarks about it. In his words, it should be like this. One pushes out with both hands, but strikes with only one hand. This is quite interesting. Now, use the tiger posture from Xing Yiquan to make changes of it. Traditional Xing Yiquan often adapts this tiger posture during practice. It is really very interesting. He may also use this posture during his attack. Then, what is the tiger posture? It is also called the fling of a tiger. He uses both hands once he starts. But if you do it like this, you'll be sorry for it, since you have to wait for both hands to be raised before you punch out. Master Wang said that one should start with both hands, but only push one forward. That is to say, though you see two hands moving forward, only this one arrives first. But it is still the function of both hands in the tiger posture, since in the end, both forces would still merge together. This method of practice became more popular after the beginning of the Qing dynasty. Before that, what was mentioned in the classic work, Scripture of Fist Art, made by Qi Jiguang, failed to cover all the points. Master Qi divided martial arts into several schools with their respective strong points, saying that Qin-Na, skills to capture and seize the opponent, were composed by the kicking art of Zhang Peixian and the seizing art of Falcon King, which is a little rash. He also mentioned about the falling art of Qian Die Zhang and the hand-to-hand fighting art of Mian Zhang. Anyway, great changes began to take place about 100 years after the founding of the Qing dynasty. For example, Jin, the internal searching force, became a focus in Taiji Chuan, Xing Yi Chuan, Bagua Chuan, Tongbei Chuan, and so on. While in the ancient time, there were no set rules for sanda. One could hit anywhere one wanted, including eyes and crotches. One could also use any part of the body to hit others, such as the knee, elbow, and even the head. I have learned something about external boxing, and I know that one could use any part from the shoulder, elbow, wrist, hip to knee to hit the opponent, so it is much crueler and quite similar to today's contests in Thai boxing. But at that time, there emerged another kind of boxing, which was called internal boxing. And boxing was now divided into two parts, internal power and external power. What is the charm of internal boxing? Let's say, when a well-accomplished expert of internal boxing is faced with an opponent who is not a match for him, he is able to win without hurting the other party, or to throw the opponent away without impairment. Therefore, personally, I think this is the sublimation of fist art. Boxing is formally a quite cruel sports activity. But if you are capable enough to reach such a high level as to be able to achieve what was mentioned in the above example, I think that such fist art is a very good form of physical exercise, being both able to defend others and attacking others. Yet such a solid foundation still has to be cast from numerous crude and harsh fights. if you haven't gone through that training, so you simply say you are able to keep cool and calm. Your heart is beating fiercely, and you even want to run away. That does not help. On the whole, during the instruction of this mind state, to talk about the emergency of internal boxing is beneficial. It almost covers every point in the searching force and the state of mind. When it came to the middle period of the Qing dynasty, Yiquan, Bagua and Taiji became the three dominant fist art schools in Beijing. Though these three schools had their respective basic training skills and never copied among each other, they had a mutual goal, that is, the pursuit of the unity of forces, which was called yuan, circle, in Taiji, meaning balance. Wherever your force went, it was with the same forceful momentum. Yiquan emphasized balance and hunyuan li, unified force, while Bagua Zhang stressed zheng, unity. In fact, they were all talking about the same thing, the balanced force and the force of the unity. But in specific searching routes, they had their own respective ways. So their movements all appeared with different styles. Therefore, in my opinion, the appearance of these three fist art schools indicated the peak time of this great martial art. What I mean is that that period had surpassed any period before it, not including the coming periods, reaching every detail in theories, in Jiji and in Yangshan, health cultivation. That was really a great step forward. It is my belief that under the advocacy of the State Commission of Physical Culture and Sports, our fist art will embrace another peak time in the near future. Now let me introduce Jiji Zhuang, combat post, to you. The principles in Jiji Zhuang are the same as in Yangshan Zhuang, mainly 3 points. First, the concentration of the mind. Second, the relaxation of the whole body. And finally, natural breathing. These requirements are exactly the same. Since Yiquan is based on Jianzhuang, you have to practice Jianshen Zhuang before learning Jiji Zhuang. It helps you to concentrate your mind, relax your body, and keep your breathing natural. All these rules are just the same. So, though there are some differences in Jianzhuang between Jiji Zhuang and Jianshen Zhuang, basically they are quite alike. In Jiji Zhuang, you have to use means like mind activities and mental visualization in order to search for force. So, what are the major requirements of Jiji Zhuang? Apart from improving your physique so as to increase your physical strength, you also have to do the practice of Mo-Jin, a term in the traditional Chinese martial arts meaning searching force. Jin, force, in Mo-Jin is different from the force we use normally. As the local saying of Beijing goes, a fist punches out with a proper jin. That is to say, a proper force, which does not go too far, is different from the force we use in daily tasks, such as when carrying something. How to search for this jin in Yiquan? Through your will. To put it simply, the force you are to search for is a balanced force, which was called Hunyuan Li in Yiquan, Yuan Jin by predecessors of Taiji Chuan, and also Zheng Jin or He Jin by some boxing divisions. According to my understanding, it refers to a force which is even and balanced between up and down, left and right, and forward and backwards. It is only in the state of evenness and balance that you are able to exert the force in one direction. After the release, you have to be even and balanced again before you issue it once more. If not, when you are releasing the force, you'll find yourself unsteady, and how can you exert the force? Therefore, the search for force in Jiji Zhuang is mainly the search for Hunyuan Li. Now I'll tell you about the specific training process. Of course, some of you may have already practiced it for quite a long period of time, since some elements are indispensable from Jianshen. But I have to stress again that the practice of Jiji Zhuang is different from the one of Yangshan Zhuang. In Yangshan Zhuang, you have both feet in a parallel line. Everyone can do that. While in Jiji Zhuang, you should stand in the attention stance. Straighten your body and move your left foot forwards in this direction for some distance. Pay attention that you should be able to raise your front foot easily without much force from the back foot. Since such a footstep can be adjusted according to the height of our body, it is the most flexible one for us. In the practice of Jian Zhuang in Yi Quan, it is not necessary that you should possess such a large strength in your legs that others cannot move it by either push or pull. Of course, if you can, it would be better. What is imperative is the flexible strength, since fist art exists in movements rather than standing still. In the latter case, even though you are possessed of a huge force, it would be of no help for solving problems. Therefore, the footstep must be agile. After you have moved your front foot forwards, you should be able to raise it effortlessly. At the same time, lean your back hip backwards while pointing your front knee intensively forward. This is called Zhengli, contradictory force in Yiquan, i.e., two forces in opposite directions, with one forward and the other backward in this case. After that, sit down on your back hip and lean your body slightly backwards, with 30% of your weight on the front leg, while 70% is on the back one. This is what is called seeking balance in an unbalanced state. Keep the force in your front knee pointing forwards and raise this hand in the direction of the front foot with the palm facing inwards. It is just like the post we have practiced right now. But you should move your footstep in this way with the left foot in front. Now you have your left hand coming to the front with the palm facing inwards. Along with the foot, the hand is also raised. And turn your head and look forward above the hand. You should have the front hand and the front foot in the same position, and it's better to have this hand behind the toes. This is something connected to Fa Li, which we will learn later. If we have the hand past the toes, once we release the force will go directly forwards. If we have the hand slightly behind the toes, we can keep still while exerting force. Remember, our favorite posture is not to incline forwards. Okay, now it's time for the mind activities. At first, imagine you are encircling a tree, which is not the one you want. In order to get rid of it, you encircle it first with the intention of moving it away. Yet at the very moment when you are standing there, you feel that your chest, abdomen, feet, neck, hip, thigh, knee and calf are all glued to the tree. Of course, at that moment, your body is turned to one side. Even your head is touching the tree at this part, as if the whole body is closely integrated. Now, use your will or mind. In the beginning stage, you are only required to use the mind rather than strength. Think really hard, but don't use actual force. Then, in the second stage, you should be able to move your force to wherever your will arrives. Once you use your mind, you feel the strength. In the third stage, there should be no division of mind and strength. The two become one thing, and you should not separate them. Master Wang once said that we should figure out the force under the control of the will. This force is not the one we use to carry things in daily life. It is only in the beginning stage you would use the force in this way. But later, there should be no division of mind and strength. Take the tree, for example. At first, you want to carry the tree and run back. At that time, you feel your body is closely connected to the tree, and you could feel the rubbing between the tree and your leg when you are trying to carry it back. If this is the case, you feel as if there is something gently caught between your legs, and your legs are always touching it. You are not supposed to carry the tree back with your two hands or even with the arms, but to carry it back with your whole body. Maybe the tree is as big as this, and you are unable to carry it. Yet, in your mind, you still feel the tree is shaking slightly with your mind activity. This slight shaking is all you want. After this, you just stop the effort to carry it. In the beginning, you just do it slowly. You should completely depend on the utter concentration of your mind to image while looking forward, rather than using actual force. Then, try to carry the tree back. You are not able to move it entirely. Under your efforts, it shakes slightly. Then, use the force of your whole body to push the tree out. But it only shakes a little bit. If you can really feel there is a tree that you are shaking, your body will shake along with the movements of the tree. I just give an impression of what it is like, yet in the beginning, you don't have to achieve that level immediately. You are only required to make one movement with the force of your whole body. I'll show you. Now, you found the force. Then, tear the tree apart and encircle it, not with your hands, but with your whole body. You try to tear it apart, but you cannot, and the tree shakes, as do you. Then, you try to press it back. I'll show what it is like. Just like this, and I carry the tree away with a crack. Then, I try to press it back to the original state with the entire force of my body. It doesn't matter whether you can move it or not. The only thing that matters is that you should feel the resilient forces from the tree. The third step is to move the tree up and down. What we have done just now is obviously first forward and backward, and then left and right. And now we need to move it up and down, as if to pull the tree entirely from the ground. But we are not able to do that. Imagine you have pulled it up a little bit and continue to pull it upwards. But at the moment the whole tree is about to rise out of the ground, you strike it down entirely into the ground all of a sudden. I'll show you what it is like. You may think that it is not by the hands that I try to pull the tree out, but by the force of the whole body. Then, at the very moment when it is about to be pulled out, with the force of my whole body, I just strike it down into the ground. Now we have covered the movements up and down, forward and backwards, as well as left and right. These are the most basic training. When I learned this many years ago, my teacher was able to make us grasp it at once. Since my elder fellow student was also there, he can prove my words. My teacher didn't allow you to do it part by part. But I was not bright enough to grasp it entirely, so, without telling him, I secretly severed the unity into parts. This is the way I learned it, which I think might be easier. But it is only allowed in the first stage. When you come to the second stage, you shouldn't do it in parts. It is when you have possessed the strength and have grasped everything in the stages before that you can divide it into parts to practice. So, I began the practice with carrying the tree back, since once you encircle it, you would not push it forward. After that, I like to tear it apart, and then strike it downward, and then push it forward, and again I try to carry it back, and another round begins. Then, I broke the order, since in boxing it is impossible for you to be prepared to use strength in a certain way. So, it is necessary to disrupt the sequence. You may arrange it any way you like. The practice is to train your reactive ability without showing any traces in visible appearance. The third stage is quite close to Yangshan, almost the same. That is, when you are standing there and busy with your mind activities, you should not show anything in appearance. Just use your mind. Just say, I stand here and there is a tree beside me. I do not pull it, nor plant it, nor push, nor carry it. Then I just think very vaguely about whether I have such a force, just a little or not at all. You just try to figure it out like this. That is, you don't have to keep your mind that highly concentrated. Just stay a little relaxed and search naturally. Such a training method is the same as in the practice of Jianshen Zhuang, wandering between consciousness and unconsciousness. As one forefather in Yi Quan concluded, the boxing has no form and the will is not there. No form of boxing and no consciousness of the will is the true essence of fist art. According to my understanding, to boxing, its form disappears. As to will, it can be either there or not. This is the highest principle, the state between consciousness and unconsciousness. Jiji is closely related to Yangshan, and the connection between them is related to health promotion. I think I should summarize the relationship between them. There's another saying. When we are practicing Zhenshen Zhuang, we stand here and then imagine. If it is winter, you imagine you are in the warm spring weather with beautiful flowers and birds cheeping everywhere. The spring wind is very gentle, and when it touches you, you feel all your hairs stand up. In Jiji, this makes all the hairs throughout your body stretch and fly. Furthermore, at this moment, you should also have the feeling that your stretching hairs are as if looking for a way out. It is just like the feelers of crickets. What's the relationship between that and fist art? It is deep in your mind that you should relax yourself. You don't use actual strength, but your mind should have the sense of force. You should extend this force till far away, and there should be waves in your mental world. Your body doesn't show any trace of movement. It is just when your body doesn't do any actual movement that your mind is in delicate control of your strength. All these are in contradiction, forth and back and forth. It was my teacher who first used this method in Yangshan in 1952. I understood it right away since I had learned more Jin in Jiji Zhuang. It struck me that my teacher applied those expansive and profound elements in Jiji Zhuang, which were utterly up to your mental feeling, since they forbade using actual strength in Zhenshen. There are a lot of examples in this respect, and I'll introduce them to you later. Just now, the mind activity is that we are circling a tree. In fact, there is one thing I haven't pointed out clearly. It is the so-called Zhengli, contradictory force, or opposing force. If you encircle the tree like this, with a tree as big as I have showed you just now, then it is not easy for you to feel Zhengli. What if you make it small? You move like this, both when forward and backwards, and when you try to tear the tree apart, it is also opening outwards. Try to figure out some connections between the two directions. Is it pushing outward or closing inwards? When you are drawing the tree outwards, it is pressing inwards. When you are pulling it out, it is moving from bottom to upward. Once it gets upward, its top falls down immediately. In fact, these are all Zhengli, a vital constituent of the fist arts. And now we come to the thing at the core of Yi Quan's Jiji, that is, the training of Zhengli. Why should I introduce Hunyuan Li first? Because Hunyuan Li is much more difficult to grasp. It is required now that anyone who wants to learn the basic skills of Jiji should first have a general knowledge about Hunyuan Li. Just some surface understanding is enough. When it comes to the second step, I will clearly ask you to search for Zhengli. In other words, Zhengli points out explicitly the training process. It is just like cutting Hunyuan Li into parts, so it is easier than the latter. Then, shall we put the easy one behind the difficult one? It is for the purpose of letting you have a general knowledge at the beginning, which is conducive to the integration of Zhengli and Hunyuan Li in the future. That is the direction towards which Yi Quan is developing and making progress. As for Yi Quan itself, the relationship between Jiji and Zhenshen is like this. When we stand here and imagine we are floating in the water, we can feel the sense of drifting along. Then shall we make a further step in this practice? When we are standing in the pool, the water is moving rather than keeping still. Then we might think the water comes from the front or from behind, or from the left side or from the right side. Maybe we are placed in the middle level of water. Maybe we are in the middle level and sinking downwards. At this moment, if you think the water comes from the front, you are pushed backwards or poured away by the water. But you are not supposed to be a rock that stands firm in midstream, and when the water comes, you just block it. So, at this moment, we should use mind. It is the same in Zhenshen. There are gentle forces patting you from the side. You may use the water coming from behind to fend against the force coming from the front, and the water coming later uses the resistance force from the water before it to move backwards. It is the same case between left and right, as well as up and down. You should always remember that it is through your mind, that is, mental visualization, that you feel the resistance from the air. This resistance is much stronger than we normally feel when we are not practicing, since we have been used to it and thus cannot feel it very much. But through our will, we think the force of the air can be felt. The imagination of a tree here actually reinforces the resistant force from the air. Say, if there is no such will here, my hand can just wave like this in complete relaxation. But if the tree is very big and very powerful, we have to strengthen our intention. We should really feel that there is a tree here, and we really cannot push it forward with both hands, nor can we draw the hands back or part them from the tree. Neither closing nor parting is possible. There are not only resistant forces from inside, but also ones wrapping you from outside. Especially when you are encircling the tree with forces forward and backward with the whole body. Aren't you also trying to carry it backwards? Then, are there resistant forces behind you? We should pay attention to these parts. And are there resistant forces under your feet and around your calves? If it is not so easy to feel the force up and down, there is a saying in Yiquan that might be of help. That is, your head is as if tied to a straight line. That is to say, you are fastened up by a rope, while there are wooden sticks supporting you under your knee, just like this. My leg is here, and I have sticks here, this side, the other side, and also there to support it. Therefore, when I try to shake this tree, there are forces coming from everywhere. It is through this mental visualization that you are trying to search for Hunyuan Li in Jiji. This method is mainly adopted in the beginning stage, with the focus on the things you have to feel. Hunyuan Li is a force balanced in every direction, up and down, left and right, forward and backwards. As you are trying to grasp the force, you can make movements during the practice of Jianzhuang. You might move forwards and backwards, left and right, or even up and down. But after you have grasped the force entirely, there should be actual apparent movements. Just have a vague feeling that you are doing it. It is like the process of learning calligraphy. At first, when you are learning kaishu, regular script, every stroke has edges and angles. But when you come to learn caoshu, running style, all these edges and angles should have gone. Actually, they are still there, only hiding inside the characters. Without them, how can the characters stand? Hunyuan means a unified entity and does not refer to truly round or even oval. Now, I recall a remark made by Master Wang connected to the use of will. That is, will is force. For beginners, of course, it is not easy to understand, so I just repeat it here. It means that the use of mind is the use of force. It is quite clear. Let's refer back to what we have said. In the beginning, we should use mind rather than actual strength. Now we say we are doing this or that movement. When you are thinking, you also feel the force, and that's why we say the force arrives wherever the will is. But you are not supposed to use more force than is necessary. If you do that, your body will be rigid. Therefore, one little force is enough. Then, in the next stage, say, when you are doing either Shi Li or Fa Li, you will be able to exert force wherever your will points. That is what we call no division between mind and force at the advanced level. I just move as I like, and I cannot say clearly where my force will go, but once I release it, the force is there. I have mentioned about Shi Li to those friends who practice Yang Sheng. Actually, it also has some connections with Jiji. Look at me. I splash water like this, and it really makes me feel comfortable. The resistant force, very gentle, is developed from the hands out to every part of the body. The whole body is in the water, swinging to and fro with the flow of the water. What will it become in Jiji? We have to make a slight change. When you are splashing water, the resistant force from both sides may not be the same. If you keep up such a leisurely state, you are practicing the relaxation of the whole body in yang sheng. But when you come to Ji, you have to think about the water. The moment you touch the water, you feel a huge resistance. You may feel quite strained, but don't use actual strength. This resistant force is very big, but you may think it is not that big. You may think it either big or small, or in the middle. All your feelings are under the control of your mind. Of course, when you are practicing Ji, there should be a contrast of forces, as well as a balance among them. When we practice Fa Li of this kind, with a slight movement of our hand like this, we have exerted the force. And turn around, you may also exert it from this side. How to train this kind of force? It is trained when we can use it in a relaxed way. If you use your strength like this, it is too clumsy and you will not be able to release it. Why? Your body is too rigid. So, we ask you to keep your body agile in the very beginning. The use of will not only makes your joints agile and flexible, but also enables you to feel the feelings of your skin and the flexibility of your strength. That's why we say will is force. This is the last stage, with no division of mind and force. If we put it in terms of the application of fist art, self-defense, say you are attacked accidentally or by hooligans, shall we then use our mind or force? There's no such thing. Mind and force should not be separated. Now let's brush up the problem of the degree of tightness. Relaxed but not loose, tight but not rigid. I think all of you are familiar with this. In fact, this is the shift between tightness and looseness. There is no standard to judge when we should keep tight or loose in Ji. Why should I make a statement? I'll give you an example. Those who have practiced this, or Tai Chi Chuan, might listen to me for a while. When you are doing Tui Shou, when there is really no force at all, your opponent is able to strike in and push you to the floor. But if you do use force, with one drag from your opponent, you turn along and are dragged by him. Therefore, exactly how much force you should employ is utterly up to your own feeling. So, relax yourself when you need to. When he attempts to drag you, if you let yourself be loose, he cannot use your force and he'll slip. It's his failure. And you are right in letting yourself go loose. But when he is pushing you, and you also let yourself go loose, his force comes in immediately and hits you forcefully. So this time, you were wrong to relax yourself. Thus, you have to be ready to adjust the degree of tightness at any moment. You sense how big the opponent's force is and decide the degree of the tightness of your body. This is flexible, so it is only in the practice that you can gradually feel it. The tightness is actually the result of mutual influence between tightness and looseness. It's okay if it is a little bit over tight. The true tightness takes place at the very moment when you are releasing force. At that time, you activate all the forces that can be activated. Or let's put it this way, at that moment, you should keep your breath in the pubic region to press the diaphragm so that all the muscles in your abdomen are swelling. As a result, all your forces can be activated and released. In the twinkle of an eye, all the forces are issued out. As in Yang Sheng, in Ji, when you are shifting between tightness and looseness, you should put more time into the relaxed state with a much larger proportion, while less time is spent in the tight state. I'll give you an example to explain this. In the practice of Jian Shen Zhuang, suppose there is a ball among you students. Actually, this is a mental visualization often used by others in our field. Suppose you have the ball in your arms. With more strength, even a little bit more, the ball will explode. But if you use less force and relax yourself a little bit, it will fly away. In fact, what is under the surface of this phenomenon is the mutual influence between tightness and looseness. It is wrong if you use actual force. Neither is it right if you use no force at all. It is up to your mind to train your physical movements. In other words, your nerves are under the control of your mind, and your muscles move slightly accordingly. You may do it like this. If you keep on thinking that the ball may fly away, let's do an experiment. If you keep on wondering between letting the ball fly away and keeping it steady, in several minutes you'll find yourself sweating and your breathing hasty. This mind activity is a question of thinking or not thinking. That's the difference. If you do think, it cannot be the same as if you don't think at all. Last year, the magazine The Window of the World reported on the training of sports players' psychology. A female player told me that she sat for 20 minutes or half an hour for the training. She used her will in the practice and felt tight all over the body after it. Of course, don't let the ball fly away either. But you should also pay attention to not breaking the ball. Therefore, at the moment when it is going to fly away, you just give a little press to stop it. Once the ball stops its intention of flying away, you should relax yourself immediately. You should not think too quickly, otherwise you won't be able to stand it. Even in Jiji, you are not able to stand the pressure, not to mention in Jianshen. Let's have another example. It is not so difficult with just one ball. How about two balls? You have one ball in this hand and another in the other hand. You may imagine this ball is going to fly away, so you have to give a press, while at the same time you have to pay attention to not breaking the other ball. So now you have forces in contradiction. On the whole, all these should be under the control of the mind, but in reality, the strength may be different. The effect of practicing with two balls in mind is different from the training with just one ball, as well as the degree of tiredness. Thus, I have to repeat here that practitioners should put more time in the relaxed state rather than straining yourself too much. Isn't it for the purpose of health that you come to practice Yiquan? If you wear yourself out, you are putting the cart before the horse. That would be wrong. Particularly for those friends who practice Jianshen, I think they should further search for the force. Is that right? I think so. You can make further searches, but you must have a good control of it. In Yiquan, it is always said to seek slight movement in non-movement. What does that mean? I still take the example I just mentioned just now. That principle means in appearance we are not moving at all, as if in complete stillness. But if we imagine there is a ball that is going to fly away, the slight movement of the ball in fact implies we move slightly too. Suppose we are standing in the water with waves swinging around us. We don't want the water to swing, but actually our bodies are swinging slightly. That is what we call to seek slight movement in non-movement. Yet, in the beginning of searching for this feeling, you should keep it slow. First, you should relax your mind. A slight and vague feeling is enough. It's okay even without that feeling. This guarantees that your body will not be injured when you are making a further step in the practice. Sure, some of you may not be able to make this step this month, but you may be able to do it next month. It depends on your own efforts to search for it in practice. Even in your mind, there should be a proper degree of tightness. I just said to Mr. Liu Pulei that a proper shift between tightness and looseness is also a must in the training of the eyes. This should be included in the training of Jiji, as well as in Yangsheng. As for training the eyes, I'll give you an example to illustrate it. The degree of tightness of the mind and that of the body converge in the eyes. For instance, I stand here with my eyes looking at the buildings and trees of the electricity factory in front. In the past, when I began to practice this, even though I saw them all, I just avoided seeing them. Everything was kept in vague sight. After 1 or 2 minutes, when the muscles of my eyes had relaxed, I wanted to see things clearly. and the moment when I saw them clearly, I relaxed the muscles again. After a break, I would try this once more. When you are doing this practice, you may do it by looking from distant things to near. You may look at things in the room from the courtyard, or just look out the window. A view with trees and with green colour is good for your eyes. When we see that the tree leaves are quite near, we might see a vast expanse of greenness, without being able to differentiate the shapes of the leaves. After a moment, we concentrate our mind and look at the trees again. This time, you must see them clearly. Once you see them clearly, relax your eyes immediately. Practice it repeatedly, and after a period of practice, you will have the sense that before you see or don't see, there would be a feeling in your skin first, as if the degree of the tightness of your skin is shifted simultaneously with the action of looking. When you continue to practice it for a period of time, you will feel that when you relax your eyes after you see things, there seem to be forces from your eyes. The degree of tightness of the whole body and the eyes are under the control of your mind, and the whole body can act in correspondence with the eyes. In other words, the feeling of tightness and looseness is not just one form, but the principle that more time should be devoted to the relaxed state and less to the tight state remains the same. Just now, I mentioned one example in Jijizhuang. Why should I talk about this posture in the future? That is to say, the most important posture in Jijizhuang will take its appearance in the future. Today, I have just given you a brief introduction about Yiquan's major principles. When you are making this posture, first, you should make a circle with your hands like this. Secondly, make sure your palms are facing downwards and the opposite fingers are pointing towards each other. Now we have the tree in this place. The process and mind activities are the same as before. Thirdly, you can open your hands. Why should there be 3 steps of this practice in Jiji? Normally, in the practice framework, that is, the defense posture, we have our palms facing obliquely downwards. But if you want to do Fa Li or make punches out, you have to shift from this posture to this. So isn't it necessary for you to have these 3 steps, obviously? Actually, this is for the purpose of reinforcing your strength in every step. What I want to say today is that some friends should not always be lookers-on. Maybe this ability of observation is stronger than mine, not for sure. But if you have reached that stage, you have to engage yourself in practice. If you can't grasp the first step, I think you should not embark on the second step. I can guarantee that even though you go on to the second step, you will retreat back. You should feel that yourself. If you think you are capable of going on to the second step, you may speak directly to me about whether you can practice while standing. There's no need for shyness. These are the 3 different postures in appearance, but in our mind activities, it is different. Since time is up, I have to stop here. I hope that you will give me more comments and suggestions, so that next time I can make up for the weak points in today's speech. The problem with this recording is that what we have covered is not very systematic. And I hope that, after listening to my introduction, you will give me your comments and complaints about which parts are not clear, or which important point is not highlighted, or even something I haven't thought of. I hope you will give me these comments and suggestions, so we can have a discussion of these problems, and I might be able to make a better illustration next time. If Mr. Wang Xiandai is considered the truly great master who created Yiquan and founded a solid base for Chinese martial arts to turn over a new chapter, then Mr. Yao Xiongjun can be called the great master who inherited the essence of Yiquan and reformed it into a scientific martial arts system, keeping pace with the times. As a foresighted pioneer in martial arts, as well as a great master in Jidi and the martial arts educator who pushed Yiquan, a completely new branch of the martial arts, to its peak in both theory and practice, Master Yao Xiongjun made lifelong achievements which have left a rich and colourful trace in history and have inspired and will continue to inspire deep respect in people's hearts. An integration of the essential parts of various martial arts schools and an organic combination of traditional martial arts and modern science, each one possesses a value even more precious than the traditional martial arts alone. It has increasingly aroused attention from learned people both home and abroad. Mr. Yao Chengguan, elder son of Master Yao Xiongjun and the representative figure of the third generation of Yiquan, has worked tirelessly to fulfill his father's unfulfilled wishes. He has devoted himself completely to the great cause of carrying Yiquan forward, with neither complaint nor regret. Uniting people from all walks of life, relying on the joint efforts of all fellow practitioners of Yiquan, he creatively mapped out rules for matches in Yiquan Tuishou and has successfully held a series of competitive activities in both Yiquan Tuishou and Sanshou, together with abundant publications of scientific and systematic training courses in Yiquan. It is Mr. Yao Chengguan's sincere wish that he may work together with fellow practitioners of Yiquan, martial arts friends sharing the same belief, as well as people interested in Yiquan both at home and abroad, to make joint efforts to study and spread Yiquan, this great cultural heritage of the Chinese nation, so as to realize its resplendence at an even higher level.